What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of The Dumbest Timeline. Now, we've done a few episodes and we've discussed some great things. Last week, you got a really interesting look into something that specifically might be a reason as why we are in the dumbest timeline. But this week, we have a wonderful guest, one of the OGs. I mentioned it last week. We talked about the Franklin Armstrong and Free X Agents Media. One of the OGs. We have Emmy here with us this week on the dumbest timeline. Emmy, how you doing?
I'm doing good, and you?
I'm not bad. I mean, I still have nightmares about being in this timeline. I'm
Um,
hoping I can get back to another better one day. Um, but or I can just process the situation I'm in. And I think one way I can do that is by talking about some interesting subjects. And we have a pretty good subject this week, and I'm gonna let you introduce it.
so I think I'm just gonna read the title of the article first, and then we'll
Yeah.
go into it. So the article is an article from Insider that says 5 reasons more millennials are choosing not to have children. And pretty much millennials, the younger ones usually, and Gen Z or overall millennials are just choosing to not have kids. More and more of them feel comfortable not having kids. It is a choice, not something that is imposed to them by life. And yeah, it seems to be bothering a lot of people, older people usually.
Uh, yeah. Well, the older generation, I think, has still is holding on really tight to some of the old school ideas that, like, you get married and you have kids and you buy a house, or whatever order. I guess married, buy the house, then have the kids. Like, your first house is a little bit of a fixer upper, that with a little room for the little one, the first one that comes along. And I'm 39, so I know I've had the conversation. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you're 10 years younger than me, if not a little younger than that. So
Yeah.
you've also probably been poked a few times by your family.
I mean, I just came back from visiting family like twice this year or this past year, and it's been really interesting to see like the kinds of not even questions, but it's just like assumptions, and they're like, "So when is it happening? Like, when this is gonna happen, you're gonna do this." And it's like, "Well, I'm not sure how it's
Yeah.
gonna happen."
Well, first things first is the question, and my partner also gets this sometimes. And I remember, and wildly enough, my partner took me to, unfortunately, a funeral that we were going for, a family that had passed. And at the funeral, people were asking my partner, because they met me, and they're just like, "Oh, so when do you think?" And in my head, I was just like, "This seems like one of the worst places to have this conversation. Why
Mhm.
would you be interested in finding out when we wanna potentially have children
I mean,
now?"
it's such a bad oh my gosh, such a bad moment.
Yes, yes, it really was. It was a really weird, and look, I know some families, it's really important, and maybe dealing with loss through the idea of new life, I'm sure, but it still felt like an odd place to be in, being
Very,
asked that. And
very odd. Um, you know what? Sometimes it's better not to ask why and just brush it off and just be like, "Okay, it's fine. That was weird." But it's
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I
yeah.
wanted to ask you specifically, because you and I've had this conversation, and I know the article says there's 5 reasons, but one of the things that I do on the dumbest timeline is I try and understand for myself through conversations I've had with people why I do things I do, and why I feel like this is the dumbest timeline. And in one of our conversations, you and I started discussing how, well, one of the reasons we both don't know if we want to have kids, not that we're saying we'll never do it, but
Mhm.
right now we're not feeling like doing it, is I wouldn't want to do something like that when I feel like everything around me is uneasy or imbalanced.
Definitely, and I think well, I think there's different reasons for different people.
Mm,
I
yeah,
think the pandemic for me, outside of everything else, is already some people took it as now is the time and
right.
we need to plan some stuff and I want to have kids, and other people took it the way where it is, well, this world is not stable at the moment. Whether we like it or not, it is not stable. And do I really want to bring a child into this world with this whole economical situation
Right.
happening. So I do think there's a lot of things. For me, it's like the environment. If we just start with
Yeah, let's start with one of the easier ones.
global warming.
Yeah, yeah.
There's global warming, and I know a lot of people will say, well, they said that when I was younger too, da da da. But I mean, I'm watching documentaries saying that by 2047 or 2050, there won't be that many fish in the sea
Right.
for us to
Right.
actually eat. We're talking about entire ecosystems that will disappear and that are endangered within our lifetime.
Right.
Not like when our kids will have kids. Like I'm talking about
Yeah, yeah. Like I'm gonna be retiring, hopefully chilling on a beach, maybe. Or hey, you know what? Rewind. I'm gonna be in a boat trying to go fishing, and you're telling me the same fish I want to maybe catch won't
maybe,
be there in my
maybe.
retirement.
So that's the thing, and it's just like like so all of these things in terms of the environment where you're like, wow, I'm from the Caribbeans.
Mm,
Well, my family is from there. They still live there. I see the difference when I talk to them and when I look at what's happening. I see the
yeah.
difference in terms of the natural disasters that we have. They are becoming stronger.
Yeah.
There's more of them, and it's not the only region in the world. I mean, there's a lot of countries
Oh my god.
all across the world that are,
Dealing with.
currently seeing
Yeah.
the effects of global warming and everything we're doing on this earth. So like
And
this
you.
first thing is like
Yeah.
already.
I just want to say something super quick to anyone who's watching this and doesn't believe in global warming. Let's just say you're right. I don't agree with you, but let's say global warming is not a thing.
Mhm.
Would you still want to bring a child into a world with this many natural disasters with no explanation? Isn't that scarier to you? Like to me, like if global warming is not the explanation for these multiple global natural disasters, and you're still like, you know what, global warming's fake. But you guys just have to get over it. It's like, okay, but there's hurricanes, flooding, fires, water levels rising in some areas, water levels dropping in other areas. Like, I feel like we gotta acknowledge, even if it's not global warming to you, something's wrong.
Something's happening.
Right? Yeah.
I know. Listen, I just there's so many reasons. I'm on TikTok a lot because TikTok
Hmm.
is quite entertaining. And I came across that side of TikTok where people were sharing their experience when choosing not to have children.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool.
And it was very interesting to me that a lot of the content was about them being kind of like afraid and ashamed of saying that they didn't want kids and how their family behaved towards them and how, they were kind of like questioned and
Yeah.
they were like, but you will be happy with kids, kids are your
Right.
joy. And even in the comments, a lot of people were like, you will not know, you know,
True joy until.
true love until like, you
Right.
have kids. And it was very interesting to me. And a lot of them were saying, I'm financially free
Hmm.
when it comes to, my income outside of the things that they have to pay. They can dispose of their income the way they wanted to, they can travel the way they wanted to.
Yeah.
And they're just like, I like being able to do things and not have to take into consideration
Yeah.
little things that I have to take care of. So it was also that one point where I was just like,
And I feel, to add to that, that's not a selfish thing. That's the other thing. Like I feel like the people who point at those who say, "I don't know if I'm ready to have kids, but I do enjoy the freedom of not having kids right now so that I can do other things." And then some people are just like, "Well, you're being selfish." Question: why is me deciding I don't think I'm ready for this a selfish? Who am I being selfish towards? Like who are these? Who is this baby for? Like that's what. Who is this child that I might bring into the world for? Is it for you? Like then why don't you have more kids? I don't understand.
and that's also one, like, one of the things where I'm like, we have people sharing content explaining how they're happy in their
Right.
specific situation. They're not saying do the same thing I did. They're
Right.
saying what I chose,
Mm.
or because I'm not certain of what I want right now,
Right.
I'm not doing that. And I'm happy about my decision. And people are
Right.
like, no, you're wrong. You're not happy.
Yeah.
It's just every time I'm kind of like always amazed at the answers where people are like, you're not really happy. And it's almost as if some people want to convince themselves that they are happy with kids. And I'm like,
Right. Oh, interesting. You know what?
We might want to explore this, you know.
That's a really interesting take. I've never really thought of it that way, that there are some people who might be it's more a factor of convincing themselves, like, "Oh,
Yeah,
well, I'm happy, so you would be happier." Like, obviously you'd be happier. It's just like, "But that's not the path I wanna walk." "Yeah, but you're choosing the wrong path." "What? What? What do you mean? I'm just
like I'm just doing me. Like I'm
Right.
not imposing anything on you. I'm just saying
Right.
this is my opinion at the moment, and you know, if you want to do otherwise, go ahead and do it as long as you're happy. I think that's also the
Yeah.
thing. But yeah,
Financial freedom is a very interesting one. And I think financial freedom is an important one because it leads into one of the other subjects that is in the article, and one that we've also talked about as a factor is the multiple economic crises that have spurred up, like, recession, possible other recession, pandemic. I think the pandemic was one that we really saw for the first time, that a lot of industries, if you pull one thread, or if pull one Jenga, whatever you want to, whatever metaphor works for you. But if one thing gets affected, an entire domino effect starts to happen and things start to unravel. And I think we saw a lot of the pipelines of industry get interrupted by business shutting down, and we're still recovering from that,
yeah,
on a, like, business level, on a transportation level, on an industry level, and because of all those factors, on an economic level.
yeah. Like supply chain was affected so badly in terms of workers not being able to go to work and go to places. It's affected. I don't know if you remember that time where we were receiving just emails from a bunch of stores and businesses saying like inventory is not there. We apologize due to
Yeah.
COVID-19, due to this, due to that. So it was like it was a lot. Um, and that's what I was saying, about uncertainty. Like, no, you said uncertainty. And uncertain
Yeah.
times you want to be able, if you bring, well, at least me, if
Mhm.
I'm to bring a child into this world, I want to be able to provide. I'm not saying like I am
Right.
not rich or I'm not wealthy at
Yeah.
the moment, but I'm not saying I want the child to be in a castle. I'm just saying I want to be able to provide an environment in which we're not struggling, in which we're not
Right.
like we're not doing this. We went to school for the ones that went to school. We went to learn trades for the one that went to learn trades. We opened
Right.
up businesses, whichever path you chose. We all chose path to try and, make our lives better, try to improve economically.
Yeah.
I think millennials are also the generation that was fed the whole go to university, get
Yeah.
a degree. And if you get this degree, you're going to get a stable job. And this stable job is going to pay for your house, your car. You're going to be able to have kids. The American dream or
Right.
European, whatever you want to call it. You'll get the house.
Westernized dream, is probably, yeah. Yeah.
Westernized dream. And you're going to be able to do all of these things and have a family. And it's going to be beautiful. The reality is, if I'm just looking at Montreal,
Yeah.
rent prices are insane at the moment.
Yo.
And then this is just Montreal. We can talk about Toronto, New York, Paris, London, whichever.
Yeah.
Rent prices are insane. And the issue is we have to live in the cities or around the cities to be able to go to work, or at
Yeah.
least before the pandemic and things got remote.
Yeah.
So cost of living is high, groceries are high,
Oh my god.
gas is high. You're
Yeah.
not able to like you have tuition fees to pay and or student loans.
Yeah.
So you're in debt, you don't make enough money because everything went up. That's how
Right.
it didn't go up.
Yeah.
But they expect you to still behave and have the same behavior as like 20 years ago
Yeah. 20, 30 years ago.
when cost of living wasn't that high and people could
Yeah.
make babies. And now you have to think, okay, so if I make a kid, let's just say you have the kid next year. In 5 years, the kid's gonna be five. At some point, you might have to,
Childcare.
childcare. You have to put the kid in school. You have to maybe activities, maybe sports, maybe
And
music,
and
whichever.
you're being nice, because you're also, we didn't even mention diapers and formula and get the new crib, and the baby grows out of the clothes so fast, so you're upgrading their wardrobe every couple months, and or you're buying the larger sizes and your baby is floating in their clothes. Either way, there's no perfect way to handle that situation. And then, like you're saying, 5 years later, here we are with
Exactly. 5 years later, 10 years later, then there's high school, university.
yeah,
You want to be able maybe to give your kid an allowance if you can. You know what I mean? University, a lot of people, a lot of parents would love to help their kids at least with a bit of tuition fees or something.
of course,
Maybe your kids will want to buy their own place. You want to be able to help with the down payment. The
of course,
reality is, all of this is money. Do
yeah,
I have this money to sustain another person?
yeah,
That's the thing. I feel like a lot of people right now barely have money to sustain themselves. Most
yeah,
people are living paycheck to paycheck.
yeah. So, Emmy, I have to ask because it's something that everyone asks me whenever I tell them I don't know if I'm ready to have a kid or if I'm ready to bring a kid into the world. What's one major factor for you that would make you feel comfortable in going forward with that decision finally?
That would make me feel comfortable.
Yeah, with potentially having a sorry?
I have no idea.
Nothing. Yeah, okay.
No, because there's so many factors. One of them being I'm super scared of pregnancy.
Hmm.
Because I've always felt like people were lying about like this is the most beautiful thing ever. And then I
Oh,
had
yeah.
a former colleague of mine that actually sat me down and she was like, no, they are lying. She's had multiple conversations with a lot of other women that said to everyone it is one of the most beautiful things. And I'm pretty sure it's beautiful for a lot of people, but she was
Right,
saying like a lot of them were actually saying it's horrible. You don't feel comfortable in your body. A lot of things are happening. Nobody understands except other women that have been pregnant that are currently pregnant. Um,
right.
and like so many things are changing, and it's like you're growing something inside of you. And I know it's supposed to be great and everything, but it's also sensations that you don't know. So there's that one thing. But outside of that, like, yeah, economically, there's a
Yeah.
certain lifestyle that I want to live and that
Mhm.
I'm working hard towards achieving.
You're right.
Not saying I want to be a billionaire and everything. I mean, if
Yeah.
that happens,
Yeah, yeah, well,
not good to be a billionaire
I'll
though
take it.
for the world. But
Right.
um,
Yeah, sure.
yeah, but just saying like, there's a certain lifestyle I want to live, and I'm working towards achieving that. And if I were to have kids, there are certain things that I would want to be able to give them,
Right.
which is more money and a lot of other things. So it's like economically speaking, yes. Personally speaking, I don't feel like like I'm not feeling that urge to be like, okay, I think I'm ready
Right, right.
to have a child. And then outside of that, yeah, the whole I'm a Black woman. I
Okay, I was gonna say the disproportionate amount of women of color who, one, when you start talking about medical stuff, dealing with the medical infrastructure as a person of color,
Yeah,
period, then as a woman of color, where we know for a fact they've done the studies, they've shown us the stats that women of color are mistreated or have a harder time getting proper medical service in anywhere. That's the North America, Western world, they have a more difficult time.
yeah. So that part with the medical, professionals, and also outside of that, if I was to bring a child into this world, I am pretty sure that this child would be Black too, and this world
Right.
is pretty racist. And then you have
Yeah.
to deal with people being upset. 1.5 million people being upset on YouTube that the Little Mermaid is Black. Okay, when this is a fictional character, guys. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you're talking about a world in which they have pseudoscientists on videos talking about actually, if she was deep in the sea, her
Oh,
skin.
oh my god. I when I heard people starting to explain the amount of light and how melanin, and I'm like, okay, but you guys want to believe in a white Jesus.
Okay, but
And
outside of that, you want to believe in a crab, or I don't know if it's a crab or a lobster that speaks and sing under the sea?
yeah,
Really?
yeah. Like all these like y'all decide really weird places where you want to put in facts and where you want to not accept situations, and it's like,
Yeah.
guys, what are you talking
That's
about? Yeah. Yeah,
so
yeah, I agree with you.
And it's like the police brutality and
Yeah.
not brutality, police murdering Black people,
Yeah. Yeah.
the police being like, depending on which country you're in, there's so many things when it comes to racism. And then the environment. Like,
Yeah.
if within our lifetime, so many drastic changes are about to happen, I don't even want to think about you're going to bring a kid into this world, and then this kid is going to grow up and be an adult and have to
Yeah.
deal with whatever we were left with because we didn't do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely did not do this.
I know. Yeah.
And then capitalism. You have to work so hard to make so little
Yeah.
just so a few people can benefit off of it and it's not profitable. And do I really want to contribute to giving them more workforce?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's also
Y
that.
Everything you've said, I mean, I feel like you you listed everything we already and that's an important point, like, you're right, it doesn't come down to just one thing. One of
Mhm.
the reasons this feels like the dumbest timeline is the fact that there are a lot of people out there who think that those of us who aren't sure about having kids, and once again, it's not that we're saying we're never going to have kids, we're saying if anything, the factors for us to have children need to be met at a certain base level. Like, in if Emmy and I at any point decide that maybe a child is something for the future, at the very least, I think we could both say, I'd like to know my kid could walk to school and not get harassed being because they're black or because they're a young girl or because of any numerous factors
Yeah.
that I watch regularly in the news, the media, social media, anything that's telling me we don't live in the safest place, we don't live in the happiest place, we don't live in the most logical place. We live in a world, and to all of you who keep telling us, well, everyone's had a rough time. Yes, a lot of people have had a rough time, and guess what? We are smart enough to say we don't want our kids to have to go through a rough time. Just because the last couple of generations were just like, yeah, it's bad, but I'm still gonna pop out a few kids and let them roll with it. It's like, okay. And to all my friends who have kids, I'm happy you had kids. I'm happy you felt comfortable. I'm happy you found your path. And this isn't a knock on y'all, because that's the other thing sometimes, and I'm sure, Emmy, you've had this conversation. Some of your friends who might have kids, when you say, I don't know if I want kids, and they're just like, wow, like, what's that supposed to mean? And you start explaining stuff, and they're just like, are you saying my kid's gonna live in a bad world? And I'm just like, your kid's already in a pretty bad.
It's not a great. It's not a great.
Yeah, like, I
It's
yeah, I don't think I'm need to explain, like, we all watching the same news, right? At the end of the day.
so. I feel you. I don't know. I'm just. Is for the people that have kids is beautiful if that was your choice and you're
Facts,
happy with your decision. And
facts,
listen, I have nephews and nieces, and I'm super happy to see them. Love
right?
them too. So
And I look forward to instilling as much knowledge as I can to those in my community that are younger so that they can grow up and make wise decisions and help the world be a better place. I just don't know if I'm ready to do that with a child of my own. Um, and I'll say this last piece before I end it. I don't know if you've had the conversation, but I had the conversation with my mom, and it's always a tough one because I know my mom is always hoping for a grandchild, and that's fair. I understand that's just how the world is. And I said to my mom, the world feels like a boat that has holes in it, and I feel like a very small percentage of us are trying to fix the boat so it doesn't sink, and the other people are out partying. And I say this to you, if I knew the boat was sinking, I wouldn't want to bring someone else onto the boat until I knew the boat was at least slightly better condition than when I got on. And my mom looked so sad when I said that to her. But I also said to her, "But mom, you brought me onto the boat, and I'm happy you brought me onto the boat, and I will do everything in my power to try and make it better than when you got on, but I still got to find if I'm ready to bring someone else on." And she
I-
understood.
that's a very good analogy or image or thing.
Yeah.
The only thing I could think about while you said that was I don't know if you know Snowpiercer, the movie, or
Yes, yes, yes.
Snowpiercer, in my opinion, outside of all the theatrics and stuff that they added for the movie, obviously,
Right.
it's a very good analogy of the world as we live it. Everybody
Right.
function and everybody's doing something, and the world around us is pretty sterile and
Yeah.
frustrated. No, I've had a start of the conversation with my parents,
Mm.
which was met with you need to continue um, this bloodline. So
Yes, yes, yes.
that was one answer. I'm an only child, so that's also like,
Oh, yes, that's an added pressure.
yeah. So that was one of the answers, and the other answer was, "Oh, you'll be ready soon, like, or it's gonna come."
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah,
that's that's
I
what it
guess
is.
I guess we'll see. Uh,
We'll
this
see.
yeah, this is one of the few times in my life that when someone tells me, "You'll see, you're gonna wanna do it," I don't have the immediate instinct to be like, "You know what? Out of spite, I'm just not gonna do the thing you think." Because you know how sometimes when people tell you,
Yeah,
yeah, you're just like out of spite, you're like, "Sure, okay." And then you just like, "I'm not gonna do the thing." But this is the only time where it's like when it comes to kids, I'm like, "Maybe I will. I'll see. Who knows?" And
yeah.
that's where I think we stand. And that's why I'll say, folks, once again, this is how we feel. This is the dumbest timeline. Emmy, anything you want to tell people? Any social media that they can follow? Anywhere they should check out, or anything that you're doing? I know you're working at a pretty dope place. If you want to name drop it.
I'm working at the Phi Center at the moment. I also work for Infinity Experiences Inc., which is a super dope, immersive, um, virtual reality in space experience currently touring the United States. So
That's
that's
cool.
also super fun to work on. But yeah, you can check out my Instagram, I guess, at Emmy.LNDR. And I do content strategy, guys. And I'm good with brainstorming. If you want to brainstorm on any creative projects, I do that too. So yeah.
That's it.
It-
Thank you so much, Emmy. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into another edition of The Dumbest Timeline. Folks, never forget this is not the darkest timeline, just the dumbest one. And hopefully, we will get back to a smarter one sometime soon. And if you're out there and you're thinking about having kids, feel free to do the thing you need to do for yourself. Peace, everybody.